Hello friends, my name is Hriyen, your tech maestro at Azure DevOps Pulse. Welcome back to another episode. In today's episode, we'll be learning about networking in Docker. So Docker networks are the backbone for communication between containers in a containerized application. They act as virtual networks within the host machines where you have installed Docker, allowing containers to connect and interact with each other and outside world in a controlled manner. So there are different types of network in our Docker. So let us explore one by one. So if I go to my system where I have installed the Docker network, then ls, I want to list out all the network. So as you can see here right now, I could see network ID, then name, that is a network name, and then driver type and the scope. So these are the network behavior right now. That is your bridge network, host network, and a non-network. These three are very common. So whenever you install Docker in your local system or in your system, right? And when once you start your Docker, basically, automatically these three network will be created for you. And by default, whenever you're running your containers, right? Whenever you're running your containers, if you don't define any network, automatically the Docker will assign the container to this particular network, which is your bridge network. Now, let us explore one by one all these three. That is your bridge network, host network, and non-network. Let us explore one by one in little bit of in details. As I mentioned already, the bridge network is something that is a default network, creates a virtual network bridge called this name, that is your Docker 0 on the host machine. On the host machine, nothing but where you have installed the Docker. Okay, and this bridge acts as central hub for containers to connect and communicate using private IP address assigned by Docker's internal DHCP server. Containers can access the host network and the antenna if allowed through the bridge interface. So it is very simple. So if you see here, this particular network, basically that is a bridge network, it will be act as a central hub for containers to connect and communicate using the private IP address which is assigned by the Docker's internal DHCP server. So when I see the Docker 0, let's see what it is exactly. So if I simply type here if config, basically I want to list the IP address, I want to check the IP address, right? So if I type if config, so as you can see here, when I type if config, I want to list the basically I want to see the IP address, right? That time I can see the Ethernet. This like as you can see here, Docker 0 and Ethernet 01. I mean 0. This is Docker 0 and this is the Ethernet 0 and this is a loopback Ethernet. So you can ignore this is the primary one by default and this is for the loopback. This one, if you notice with the same name, that will be created for you by default, which will be managed by automatically when you create a Docker itself. I mean, install the Docker. So the Docker 0 is your bridge network. This will be acting as a central hub for communicating so that they can for communication purpose between containers. Now, if you see a little bit down, there is something called as a virtual Ethernet device or bit pairs. What it does basically, the Docker utilize the bit pairs to establish virtual network connection between containers and the bridge. That is here, this one they are going to use it. And bridge network, Docker manages the IP address allocation within the bridge network using a subnet, and each container connected to the bridge network is assigned an IP address from the subnet. Meaning, if you see here, whenever you basically, let's say this particular Docker, what you call the bridge, right? This particular has a some IP range, that is a subnet range, this one. So if you are assigning any containers or running containers within this particular network, your IP address to the container will be used within the subnet range itself. So if you have a different kind of IP range in your Docker network, then based on that, whatever subnet range you have, it will be used one of the IP, right? So then how we then we also have some other, that is a host network. So we'll just try to understand a little bit of that as well, host network, right? Host networks removes isolation between containers and a machine, wherein by default bridge network can communicate with the host and the containers. But here, what in the host terms, like host network, they remove the network isolation between containers and the host machine, means variation of container. That means they are removing the network, they basically isolations between the container and the host where I have host machines where I have installed the Docker. Containers share the same IP address and the network configuration as the host, allowing direct access to the host network resource. So they are going to share the containers going to share the same IP address and the network configuration as the host. That means they will not be having and it will be, there is no any isolation. So it will be kind of little risks also if you want to use this one. That is a host network. Where in what do you say that one bridge network case they are having a isolation case, but here they removes all the isolation. There is no any isolation between containers and the host machines. Now, containers inherit the IP address, subnet marks, and the gateway and DNS settings, everything, and direct access to the network resource. That is your physical network resource. Okay, containers can directly access network resource available for the host machines, example physical network device. So it is quite difficult, I mean not good practice to use this one. So instead we can go with the bridge network, which is that will be used by default if you don't define anything. But there is others also how we can create, also we learn that for later. And there are others as well, like overlay, that is an advanced topic. And if you talk about the non-network, what it does basically provides complete network isolation for containers. Okay, they provide a complete network isolation for container itself. Container connected to the same, I mean, connected to the non-network have no network interface and cannot communicate with each other or external world. That means this particular, whenever you use the non-network, you will not have access within the container itself. So let's say if you have a two different containers running with the same network, non-network, they cannot connect internally each other also. Forget about the external. Okay. So what we are going to do here is that we are going to explore one by one today. So what we'll do first thing, we'll try to create one network that is for bridge network. So how we can create? I have already defined write some script here and not script basically commands here so that it will be easy for us to do it or make it fast. So as you can see here, I have a Docker. The command to create basically, you can also refer these documents. I have already created all the documents over here. If you want this repository, you can use it. Is available in your GitHub. Now, as you can see here, I have mentioned here also creating a bridge network. How we can create like this. Okay, this will be simple. If you create like this, what happens? Automatically, your if you see here, Docker network then create, that means you are trying to create the network, that Docker network you want to create with this name. So if you create with this name, what happens? Let me show you. If I try to create, let me just clear the screen. See, if I don't mention any network type, by default I am simply I wanted to create the network that is this name, that is a web app network. By default it will be created as web app, sorry, what do you call that, bridge network. Let us see, Docker network ls. See here, I have not specified what kind of network type I want to use. Automatically, this is the network name which we have already created, and this is the type of network. In my case, it is a bridge network. So these all by default. If you don't specify anything, also even while creating the containers, also if you don't specify network, by default this bridge network will be used. And if you while creating the containers, I mean network itself, if you don't mention the type of the network, that I mean drivers, even that time also by default the bridge network will be chosen for you. Now, what if you want to change this one? I want to basically stop this one. I want to mention I want to basically customize this one. This is just a random name is going to take. If you just simply say Docker inspect and mention this name. If you check here, by default, you see the IP address. Automatically, this IP address got assigned. 217 automatically. If you go with the next one, it'll be 23, 24, 25 like that. It will be created like that. But right now 172 will be there at the last 22, right? If you're trying to create another network, that time it will be 23 and 24 and so on as you create more. Okay, but what if you want to customize this name also, your gateway subnet everything, if you want to customize your complete bridge network itself, if you want to customize the name, not just the name, the configuration itself, like the subnet range and the IP address, I mean the gateway everything, if you want to customize, how can I do? So let us see that one. So if you want to create your own way, so what we can do is we can mention driver name using this one driver I mentioned. Whatever driver name I want to mention like this I can use. If you want to mention the host, driver means as you can see here, let me 1 second clear the screen. So you can see a driver, right? And the driver what type of I want to create, whether I want to create host or maybe I want to create some other, right? So in my case this is how I can define it. So but what if you want to define some unique name like custom name? Basically I just want to use some customized name. Like I want to change the subnet range instead of the default one. I want to change the subnet range, and also I want to change the gateway also according to my wish. And obviously the network name also I want to change it. So what we can do, we can use like this. So we can run simply docker network create and then mention the driver type. In my case, driver type is a bridge and the subnet range. What subnet range I need? So I have given whatever I need. In my case, I need a 15 series. 172.15 series I need. And what is the gateway? Same this series I want. And what is the what you call network name? I'm going to use a custom bridge network. Okay. Now let me run this one. I mean the first let me run this one so that we can save the time. Now if I create now the whatever the range I have given subnet range as well as gateway, right? This will be used according to whatever you have defined. But in our case, the previous one, this one got created automatic with random subnet range, right? So let us create this one first. So as you can see right now, we have created successfully. Now we can check using the same command as docker network ls. So as you can see here, custom network, right? This is the name we have given right now, custom bridge network. This is the type is a bridge, and this is a scope is a local. Now if I want to see this one custom bridge network, let me inspect this one. Basically I want to see what is the information like configuration being used, this one like your subnet and the gateway etc. Now if I inspect this one, as you can see here right now, you are getting the subnet range which you define and also the gateway. So it is good practice to define basically according to your requirement. You don't want to use simply the random name, but then you want to use with the subnet specific subnet range and the gateway as well, and with the custom name instead of the default. Because if you check here, this is also a bridge network. This is by default bridge network name itself bridge network, and the driver type is a bridge. Okay, so this will be used by default. So if you don't want this name to be used as the bridge name, I can customize this name to some other name such as custom bridge network or any other name that you wish to give. Clear? Now, now fine. Now what we are going to do is that we have created the network. Now let us run the containers using the existing bridge, I mean network. So what I can do, in my case, I can use Ubuntu or any image I can use. Okay, no problem. I can use nginx in my case. Nginx. Okay, so what is it going to do now? Docker run command and the D is nothing but data more. I want to specify the bridge name basically. Bridge name means, sorry, container name. In my case, I want to give container name as a bridge container 10. This is the container name for my uh, container. This is a name. And network basically, if you see here with double dash in the network, that means I want to specify the network which I want to use it. I don't want to use the default network which was assigned by the Docker. I don't want to use that one, but I want to use the one which I have created just now, this one. So that is why network I have typed because I want to specify the network. So I have to mention the double dash and the network and whatever the network name that you created. In my case, this is a name I created, right? So I given this one, and the T is nothing but it is a in the TTY or terminal we can call it. And at the same time I want to expose this one. P is nothing but I want to expose the uh, basically the port of your nginx, because this is your local port basically, and this is your nginx which listens on. So this is for the container port basically 80 that nginx listens on. Now if I want to run this one, let me just run this one. Right now, as you can see here, they are trying to find the images from your local system first, and the nginx was not available in your local system. What they did was they went to the repository, that is your GitHub, sorry, not GitHub, Docker Hub. They went there and they pulled the images for you. The nginx images they have pulled it, and as you can see, it is complete successfully, and you can see the status downloaded newer image for nginx latest. So this got downloaded, basically pull and downloaded from your what do you call Docker Hub to your local system. So this is the image ID. Now, if I want to see here, let me just type Docker images. What I want to see, I want to check the Docker images. Docker images basically what it happens. I'm going to list the running all the, I mean not running. I want to list the images. If you have multiple images, Docker images basically you will be listed over here. In my case, we have already pulled the images and it is running container also, so that is why we can see the nginx is running, I mean available in your local systems, and this is a tag which is latest one, and the name of the image, that means nginx image id, this one, and also when it got created, and also the size also we can see here. Now what I want to see here is that, like I mentioned, using this command, I am this particular bridge network 10 container is already created and it is running right now. So like because we use a d with a d argument, so that means it's a data which will be running in your background. Now, if I type here docker ps, that means it is going to list all the running containers. If I type this thing, so as you can see here, you can see this one nginx, right? The nginx which was be built this one, and if you see when it got created about a minute ago, okay, and about like status up, it is up as we know already about a minute, and what is the port be exposed 801, and what is the container port or maybe the engine acceleration on, that is port 80, and same thing you can see what is the name of the container that we have given, this is the name bridge network 10, right? So this is a name we have defined in our this thing, so that means it is running, our container is running with the this thing. Now how will I know whether this particular container is using this particular container is using the same network or not? I mean the network what they created, right? The network which you created, that is your custom network you have defined here, right? Custom network. How can you define whether this got created? I mean, this is how can you confirm that the particular container is using the same network or not? So let us see. So I will go copy this same network name. Okay, I have copied the network name. Now I can simply type docker inspect and the name of the network. In my case, custom bridge network is a name which I want to use for my container, bridge container 10 container. Okay. Now, if I type here, let me come down. So as you can see here, bridge network 10. That means the bridge network, if you see bridge container 10, I mean, okay. So this is the IP range we have, subnet range we have. This is a gateway we have used, and driver is a bridge type of the driver is a bridge. So when it is got created also, that you can see details also. This is the custom network name, your network name, and the container what it is used here. That is a bridge container 10, because bridge container 10 is something we are going to use it, right? So that is why this got created for you. I mean, this particular container is using the network what you want to use it. In my case, custom network bridge network, I want to use it for my bridge container 10. So it is using the same. If you have, let's say, the same network, if you want to attach to multiple containers also, then you can attach that. Okay, it is possible. You can have how much ever you want it, you can attach to this particular network. Now, let's say in my case, just now we have attached only this particular container, that is your bridge container 10. Only this particular container is running. So if you want to maybe confirms, maybe is there any other containers running? Let's say if you attach some other container also, this will be listed over here. Okay, yeah, you can come here and check within your network itself with the help of network inspect and the network name. So whatever containers you are attaching or running within this particular network, you can list it over here. Fine. Now let us try to access the application, that is nginx. So what we'll do, we will simply type, so we know the port. Let us see one second what is the port using. Okay, it is using 801. Fine. So what we'll do curl, sorry, curl curl http colon localhost with the port, that is 801, 800 or 8000, I think 801. Okay, if I type here, so as you can see here, welcome to nginx. With this thing you can see, that means it confirms that you have pulled the images from Docker Hub, and you have it is running in your containers. Okay, and containers using this particular network which you want to use, that is your custom some network ID, I mean name, right? Bridge network. So that confirms that you have successfully deployed your containers in the right network. Now, once again, what we'll do, we'll try to do explore some more. If I try to see here Docker, I can simply go back also check it. Here, what I'll do now, this particular container, I can inspect in many ways. So let me show you one more. If I type simply Docker PS. So I can inspect using the container name also instead of the network also. We can still see the this thing also. So let us see that one. So I can tag the container name or the container ID. Anything is okay. Container, sorry, Docker inspect, then mention the container name. So you can see here. Okay. This is how it confirms that you can use it this way also. We can inspect this one. So in my case, if you see network under network, right? Because now right now we are inspecting the container itself. So if you see down under network, you can see this is the network we are using, custom bridge network. This is the network we are using. So it confirms that you are attaching to the right containers. And also you can see the alias name and the MAC address and network ID, endpoint ID. There are so many gateway, everything you can see over here. Okay. And the same thing, DNS level, we can say bridge container 10. That is your the content which you're running right now. There are other detail also. If you want, you can go through with these logs, but for us it's okay, right? So now what we'll do, we have understood how to inspect and see how to confirm that, right? So what we'll do now, we'll try to once again what we'll do, we will simply run once again this command docker ps. I want to list the running containers basically. So this time I'm going to right now this particular container 10, it is attached to the network, right? It is attached to the network, that is a bridge network, which is custom. Now how can I remove this one from the network? So I can simply use, there is a command. If you want, you can just refer these documents. If you want to, as you can see, if you want to detask basically container, right now the custom whatever you created, it is running fine. Now for some reason I want to basically detach the network which is running right now from the existing container. So what is the format I need to use? I simply need to run docker network and disconnect commands. Then mention the name of the network and then you have to mention the what you call your container name. So what we'll do in my case, I can simply type container name. I know this is the container name I want. What is the bridge name? I can type the network name also, docker network ls. I need two things. I need this name, that is your network name I need. At the same time, I need a container name also to in order to remove from your existing containers. Now what how I can do that one? So simply type docker network, then I can mention disconnect. Then after disconnect, then what is the container name in my network name? I have to mention this network name. That means I will copy this one. This is my network name. Then I want to remove this one, this connect, but which for which container? So I have to mention the container also. That means now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to remove the container which is attached to the custom bridge network. Okay, now let us enter it. So as you can see here, it is I don't see any error. That means I can still check whether it is running now. If I see here docker ps, it is obviously running. But how can I confirm now whether it is got removed or not? So, but if now how can I confirm? Let us see that one. Again, you have to check with this name. If I want to check, I have to go with this name, that is your custom bridge network, because I want to check the uh, this particular network is at running any container or not, or using any container. So docker inspect, again same command we have to use, run, I mean your network ID. I mean network ID or network name, anything. So as you can see right now, let me clear the screen once again. So as you can see here, right now I don't see any containers attached here. Only I could see was your subnet and the gateway. I do not see any container attached over here. Before it was showing, right? The container ID with the details, everything. Now it is not showing. That means it is removed successfully. The same way, if you want, you can confirm also in your what you call. Let me copy the container name first. Same thing if you want to inspect, you can inspect. They're also using same command inspect, but this time with the container name. So we can use with the container name or the network name, anything, but depends on your this thing. You can check. Now if you see here under network settings or what this thing, you will not see right now. Maybe it is got created the use the default one. Let me just clear the screen. See, you will not see, this is only default one. Okay, only the default got created, and if you go up also, you can confirm it. Okay, that means now you confirm that the network what you had used before that got removed from the specific container. Now what we can do is that, right, now what we'll do, this time I'm trying to we are trying to see what we'll do. We'll just clear the screen once. One second, I'll type docker ps. I want to stop the container now. How can I stop? Because if I want to remove the image right now, I can't remove. If I try to remove image also, like if I just simply type docker RMI to remove the image, I need to mention RMI and the image name or image ID. If I type here, it is showing me response from daemon conflicts unable to remove repository reference nginx must force container. This particular is using the reference thing. That means this particular nginx image was used with this particular container ID. That is the container ID which we would this the container ID is used, right? So this is it is running, right? So I need to stop this first, or I can do with the help of force commands. Okay, but I don't want to do that one. So let us see what we can do is that I can simply type here. If I type ps, you're going to see the running containers, right? Right now, as you can see here, the nginx image, there is a ID and it is running fine now. This is the container ID. I mean name. Now let me stop the container itself first. Docker stop, mention the container name. In my case, let me copy this one. If I type here, that means I'm going to stop this the running container first. Now it is stopped now. Now it is stopped, but still again if I try to remove the image nginx, you will still see this one. Now this time let us see the issue when message. So unable to remove repository reference nginx merge force container. This particular is running its reference with this thing. This time also showing same thing. But Like I mentioned, I have already stopped this one. Why I'm getting this thing? Let me see once again. If I type the ps, now before it, when I type the ps, that time it was coming the the running container, right? This time it is not coming. The reason why it is not coming, because right now if I use the ps basic nothing bar, it is only going to be listed the running containers. In my case, we have already stopped the container. That means it is no more running, right? So if you want to see running as well as stop container, what we can do with the a argument we can use. That's a. That means I'm going to see running container as well as stop container. Now you can see the container which we're using. So as you can see the exit number right now, this is the container basically ID, and this is the image, and status right now exited. Before it was running, this time it is exited, and about 1 minute ago. And this is the container name. That means this particular container, right, bridge container 10, right now it is a stop state. That is why it is showing as a exited. So sometimes the status you have to check. You may get some other code, anything. If there is anything like exit code as 0, that means there is no issue in your container itself. Like if you get any other non-exit zero code, if you get some other non-exit code as maybe 2, 3, or 1, whatever code, that means there could be some issue in your container itself. But in our case, as we can see, it is zero exit code, so no issue with our container itself. Now, because we have stopped, that is why it is showing as exited. Now, what we do, we have to remove first the running container. I mean, stop the container. We have stopped the container. Now, let us remove the container. How can I do that? Using rm, docker rm, and the container name. This time, I am going to remove it before I stop, and then after stopping, I am going to remove it this time. Okay, now if I type here same thing with the a argument also, I'm not seeing anything because it is no more running or available in your system. It is remove everything now. Okay, that confirms that you have removed successfully. Now if I try to remove the images, that is the nginx which you're trying to remove before, now you can easily remove. Okay, so as you can see now, it is removed now. So if I type here once again docker images, you will not see the image running anymore because it is removed right now. So in order to remove your existing images, first of all, if it is a running, if you have any container which is running, you first stop the container and then remove the container. Then only you can delete the existing images. But if at all you want like to delete like forcefully using this argument, we can define such as, let me show you something like this argument. Okay, if you use this one with a force argument, then it is going to remove for you. But if it is then your container can be maybe in the stop state. Okay, so this is again depends on the use cases, but we have to follow the best practice. So all right team, so this is all for today's session. So I hope this is informative and useful to every one of you. So thank you so much for your time, and see you maybe in the next session. Till then, bye bye, have a nice day.